adapter here, and then I also have the target discovery methods that are actually enabled for this adapter, and you can see here that the software initiator has been turned on. If I click the configure button here, I can actually enter in an iSCSI alias if I want, just to make things easier so I don't have to remember the entire iSCSI name, this whole IQN name that's been created for this adapter. Or I could go about actually removing iSCSI, the initiator, and turning it off if I wanted to. There are some advanced features here that I'm not going to go over, but there's an entire long list here of particularly advanced features that one assumes your storage device manufacturer may have you adjust. But unless they have specifically requested for you to make changes to this advanced settings screen, or if VMware has, you're generally not going to make many changes here into the advanced settings screen. Now, your security policy may want you to create some sense of security or authentication between the initiator here at the ESX side and the target over at the storage area network. Now, one of the ways that that can be accomplished is through the use of the Challenge Handshake Authentication Protocol, or CHAP. Now, CHAP is, admittedly, it's not the best authentication mechanism in the world, but it is the mechanism that iSCSI targets use to authenticate back and forth between the target and the initiator. Now, what CHAP uses is essentially a shared secret, meaning that you will need to enter in the name and the secret associated with the target and potentially with the host as well. Now, you can see here that in traditional CHAP, the target actually authenticates the host. In mutual CHAP, you have essentially both. The target authenticates the host and the host authenticates the target. And you can turn on each one individually if you want. Now, you'll only turn these on if you have a security policy that determines that you need to have authentication either one way or bidirectional between target and host. This does not encrypt the traffic between target and host. It actually just goes about authenticating that initial communication so that you can ensure that the person who you think you're talking to is actually the person you are actually talking to in this iSCSI communication. Once you've set up the security pieces here with CHAP, the next step is to click over here under Network Configuration. Now, what this screen does is it provides a very nice location for actually setting up the VM kernel port bindings between which VM kernel adapter you want and which port group you want for the use of iSCSI. Now, if you recall, I created that virtual switch over there, vSwitch1, that's titled Storage, and it's associated with VM kernel adapter VMK1. We want to actually bind this to iSCSI here so that we can actually make use of that VM kernel adapter for the purposes of iSCSI. By doing so, you'll see the port group policy is set to compliance. I'm not using multiple paths here, so I don't have to worry about the path status. Although if I were using multiple paths, and which is generally a really good idea with iSCSI, you would see this here where you could actually verify that the path status was compliant or not. Now, once I have at least a single connection set up here in the Network Configuration tab, the next step is actually to go here under Dynamic Discovery to identify the servers, or the storage servers, the storage processors, that are going to be exposing iSCSI LUNs for the purposes of